if you missed the debut episode last time out, then I'm just going to give a short introduction to what this show is all about. So this is our new bi-weekly show on Subtle Sport, which will focus on the Southern Central Premier and the Isthmian League, step 3, of course, of the English football pyramid. On the show, we will have in-depth roundup of recent matches, team news, speculation around players, and of course, it wouldn't be Subtle Sport without some Kettering and St Albans chat along the way. In future episodes, we'll have guests from fellow non-league clubs on as well. We had a number of people get in contact this week to try and be on the show, just couldn't make it happen logistically. But if you are interested, then get in contact with us and we will make it happen. But of course, I am joined, as always, by our resident Isthmian fan, Zach. Zach, how are we, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Haven't actually gone to a St Albans game, missed the last 2 games, so feeling a bit better.
I was going to say, so I bet the vibes are a little bit better. Yeah. I was going to say, because you've not been watching St Albans.
Yeah. And we did get a win on Saturday, which did give a little bit of a boost.
Just a tad, yeah. But then again, you have to look at FA Cup Step 5 or whatever it was opposition. Yeah. We don't read into those too much. You said there, obviously, you've not been to St Albans the last couple of games. So just, for anyone that didn't listen last time, because you did say where you're off to, where did you head to during the bank holiday?
So I went to Chesham on the Monday. So I went to St Albans Folkestone on the Saturday of bank holiday, then Chesham versus Hampton on the Monday. Then Saturday just gone, I was at Hemel versus Torquay.
Very nice. So you've been about very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, out of those 3 games, then, what one caught your eye the most? What was the most interesting?
Torquay versus Hemel. So I was expecting Torquay to be like a good side, but I just thought they were dreadful. They had like 2 shots all game. Hemel just bullied them, had just such high intensity and just, tore them apart.
Just dominated the game, yeah. No, that's very fair. I mean, I only got to 1 game over the last 2 weeks, which was Bedford versus Kettering, because on the Monday, my family decided to go mini-golfing when I could have gone to Kettering versus Market Harbour. And then on Saturday, I had works commitments, so I weren't able to get anywhere. But I've looked at a couple of these FA Cup ties that we'll look to speak about later on. And there's a couple that are jumping out to me that I want to try and get down to be fair. But we'll kick it off, as we did last time then, mate, with a little bit of a review of both leagues. And we'll start with the Isthmian then, pal. And then in terms of that, we'll talk about the FA Cup, of course, in due course. But with the recent bank holiday double-header, mate, and some of the games you went to and elsewhere as well in that level, what really struck out for you and caught your eye?
Brentwood, yet again, every game so far this season, have gone behind and picked up points. Like, I just think that's just insane mentality. Every single game going behind and picking up points is just unreal. Dulwich finally lost in the league to Whitehawk, which was a bit of a shock. Then followed it up in the FA Cup the following week with another loss to big Step 4 side.
Yeah.
Then, hashtag, I think, not doing great. I watched their game Friday night in the FA Cup against Aveley. So it was being live streamed, and I just thought they were absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, well off it.
Yeah, they've got no pace in really attack. Defence just looks slow, just looks like they have no cohesion and just, not good. Another team still in a bit of a mess is Welling. They won in the FA Cup, but that was against a Step 4 side, so as expected by the league, they're just looking like relegation candidates. And I think the issue with Welling is they've got an inexperienced manager. This is his first proper job. So, it will be interesting how he picks up. So, Then obviously St Albans went to see them against Folkestone, and that was an absolutely horrendous performance. There's no sugarcoating it. We had sort of one proper shot on target, and that was our goal. But it was a 30-yard just shot that bobbled a little bit on the 3G, bounced over a keeper and went in. Went down to 10, Boswick sent off. I just think the issue with Boswick is he's just too slow. He's 38 years old, and any bit of pace, he just, has to pull him down.
Yeah.
And 2 yellows sent off. Then on the Monday, we lost 2-1 to Cheshunt. By the sounds of it, it was a much improved performance, but against sides like Cheshunt, you expect to win.
Yeah.
And I think if teams have just worked out how to play against us, then, Aylesbury, 3-1 win. But listen to the post-match interview, even our manager wasn't happy with it. He was saying, we're not a good side at the moment. which is
No,
worrying when your manager is saying that. So,
no,
yeah,
it's not ideal, is it? I know things definitely ain't clicking down at St Albans, but it's interesting you brought up Brentwood because that was obviously that was going to be the one that one of the few teams I brought up, and we said
yeah,
it a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? And you very much said it about them being mentality monsters,
yeah,
and like you said there, because they go behind in every single game, but they've every time they've come back and almost dominated and dictated the
yeah.
games and come back and won relatively
Yeah,
comfortably at
even
times.
like when they played us, we went 2-1 up at half time, and second half we were just pinned into our own box for the whole half. They've just got
Yeah,
so
exactly.
much sort of attacking pace as well. Like they're just
Mm.
quick, and they've got like Charlie Hughes in midfield, who's been at Aveley the last few years and was one of their better players. So just having that in there as well is just key.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that as well because obviously you would have probably seen Brentwood a bit more than I have. But you mentioned Charlie Hughes there, but is there anyone else that really stands out in that team at all?
Oh, there's one other player, I can't remember his name, but he was a winger. Um, oh yeah, Daniel Ogunlay,
Mm-hmm.
Ogunlay, got it up, but yeah, he's been banging in the goals. I think how many has he got? He's got three goals already this season. He was at Herne Bay before, I think. Yeah, be interesting to see how he does.
No, they're flying at the moment, and all credit to them because they're looking like a very decent side, aren't they?
And it's
Um,
promoted side as well, which
yeah,
he
exactly. For a promoted side to come out with the performances and the wins they've got, very 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 impressive. Just to add on what you said about hashtag there as well, because it's always a team that we said it as well in our preview before the season started. It's a team where you don't know where they'll finish because one week they can go to the likes of like a Dartford or a Billericay, the
yeah,
bigger teams in the division, go and beat those, and then struggle against the lower quality sides.
yeah,
And since beating Lewis on the first game, they've obviously gone and lost 3 in a row recently. Haven't won in 4 games. Add that to, like you said, you saw the FA Cup game on Friday. Add that to that disappointment. They're just not in a good spot at the
yeah.
moment, are they?
Yeah, it was interesting watching the FA Cup game because obviously it was Spencer, the chairman, doing the commentary.
Mm,
He was like, even he was saying there needs to be squad changes as soon as
yeah,
possible, which is an interesting insight into all of it. So I think, yeah, there
no,
should be
definitely.
some new signings. I thought they had a player on loan from Swindon against Aveley. Can't remember his name, but
Mm,
I thought he was their best player by a mile, but got subbed off at half time. So
okay.
apparently there was some aggro in the tunnel. So
Love
interesting.
that.
But yeah, yeah, only one win, 4 losses on the bounce now, and one draw. So
It's not ideal, and they've got big games coming up as well over the
yeah.
next 2 weeks
But my
against
thing
teams
with
in and around them.
hashtag is Dev's the manager's been there for an absolute long time, and I always
Yeah.
think a manager's got sort of a expiry date at a club.
Hmm.
It'd be interesting if he's hit that, and maybe it's time to freshen things up
I
in
was going to
terms of
say because he's been there for so much of this hashtag journey, hasn't he?
yeah.
Through non-league and
I
through
think
the
yeah,
Premier
probably
League.
7 years now, 2019,
Exactly, and like you say, every manager does have an expiry date, and it'd be
yeah,
wondering if hashtag would pull the trigger. Say they
yeah,
come out of the Welling game, the Wingate game,
yeah,
um, and Cray Valley, I think, is another one in their three that
yeah.
they've got. If they come out
They're
of those
struggling as
games with
well, yeah. So I think if they
with
fail to
minimal points,
pick up a win in the next three, I could see him gone.
exactly, and
Would be
it
interesting.
would be a tough decision, I can imagine, for the club, but they probably have to do it to try and get out of
I
the
think they'll
mess that
get
they're in at the moment.
plenty of good candidates going for the job
Yeah,
just due to the name reputation.
exactly. Yeah, I mean it's a massive, a massive following, isn't it, in terms of
Yeah.
online presence and stuff like that. So you're always going to get that recognition, like you say, with applications going in. Another team I wanted to ask you about then, just quickly, was the team that hashtag beat on first day with Lewis. Now, look, they've not really ripped up trees as such since that game, but
Yeah.
they've picked up a little bit of form. They've thrown themselves to the top end of the table. They'll be disappointed to exit the FA Cup to lower league Flackwell. But in terms of the league, it's been a lot more positive from what I saw from that hashtag game, because in that hashtag game they just looked way way off it, and
Yeah.
this since then they've sort of turned it around a little bit more. How have you seen them?
So with Lewis, actually, they're two starting centre backs, and actually two players I think I'm very familiar with because both had spells at
Mm,
St Albans, Ian Gale and Dan Bowery. And I think both of them are just very solid centre backs. Like Ian Gale's been around National League South and Lisbon, and he's like 33. He's an absolute leader, absolute unit. And I think just having that defensive solidarity as well, because they haven't conceded many. I think, yeah,
yeah,
they've since in the league, since after the hashtag game, they've kept two clean sheets and conceded two. So I think they're very much defensively solid side. I haven't had a big look at their squad. I'll just check who their top goal scorer is. Carl Bennett is their top goal scorer. He's from Colchester's academy. So yeah, it does have got some youthful attackers.
No, exactly. I mean, in terms of like obviously the we spoke about the big teams in this league last time, the Billericay's, the Dartfords. What have you assessed from them since they've since the bank holiday weekend?
Dartford just have an absolute disciplinary
I was going to
issue.
say, was it Ramsgate? Was it the 4-4?
Yeah, 2 red cards.
That was
So already 4 red cards in the league for Dartford. That's just unacceptable. And I watched their highlights against Bracknell. It was quite interesting because first half Bracknell should have been 4-5 up, and the second half Dartford should have scored 4-5. They're a very erratic side, and I'm good mates with a Dartford fan, and he was just saying they're just so bipolar. Like sometimes they're playing some of the worst football possible, and sometimes they just turn up and play like Barcelona. So yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting one if they can find their feet. They've got a good enough squad, but it's just about whether they can find their form. It's a bit like last season. They started the season absolutely horrendously, then won, I think, like 15 on the trot. So
it's just a matter of time, really.
Yeah, I don't think they need to be worried just yet. I think if they lose the replay in the FA Cup tonight, I think, but then they've got an easier run against Canvey Island and Aveley, then yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and just to possibly start to round off, but you said, Canvey Island there. We kind of both said that, Malden and Tiptree will probably knock them out the FA Cup, which they did. Still rooted to the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very much... Did you write them off already?
Oh, yeah, 110%. Go through their squad. There's not any quality. Peter Taylor, their manager, I think his recent track record, although he was interim England manager in the early 2000s, I don't think there's much to be looking forward to if you're a Canvey Island fan.
No.
I'm looking at their fixtures. I just don't know where they're going to pick up any points. I think they'll probably
looking good.
Yeah, we've got Dartford, Brentwood, Whitehawk, Welling. I could probably see them get a result against Welling at the current rate, but I think it could be safe to say already they're gone.
On the 2nd of September.
I'm more than happy to put it out there that they're going to be relegated.
Yeah. I don't think anyone would disagree with you, really, because of how shocking they've been this season, and it's very much looking that way, isn't it? And things will probably get worse before they get better. Like you said, they could possibly pick up against Welling, but that's in, 2-3 games' time?
Yeah.
So momentum could way be gone then.
Fine margins they're losing by. They're not scoring and they're just conceding quite a bit.
No, exactly. So it's not looking good for them at all. Is there anything else at all then, mate, in the Isthmian that you want to quickly touch upon before we move on to 7?
So I was just looking at upcoming games. So Aveley versus St Albans on Saturday should be interesting, I think. I was talking to a few St Albans fans and it was very much like if we don't win sort of any in the next 3, I think there will be questions asked. Dulwich versus Welling, I think, actually on Saturday should be quite a good, interesting game because Welling Dulwich have lost the last 2, and we'll see if they can bounce back or whether the wheels will fall off. So I think that could be a very interesting game. Then Cray Valley versus Hashtag is another one I've got down. Sort of Cray have sort of had a bit of a slow start. Hashtag have had a very slow start, so it'd be interesting that one. See if the team will sort of turn their fortunes around a bit.
No, definitely. I think out of the ones you've said there, the Dulwich one really does, for me, would be interesting to see in terms of, like you say, that bounce back, because it's not just the FA Cup defeat as well. It's the defeat on one of those games over the bank holiday weekend as well. Maybe they've come down to earth a little bit after such a lightning start. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how that one goes. In terms of the Southern Central then, mate, before I kick into it, is there anything that you've seen across the league or anything that stood out for you before I take a
Well, I think although this is FA Cup, but Corn's FA Cup result 8-0,
yeah,
ridiculous. But Real Bedford having a bit of a slump. Are we allowed to talk about that?
Definitely, 100%.
But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens at Real Bedford at the moment.
No, 100%. Yeah, it is.
And obviously Kettering flying, Bishop Stortford still flying. So yeah.
No, definitely. And I think Real Bedford, I'll talk on that especially because obviously, you know, they're not going to silence me. But no, Real Bedford, yeah. I mean, I've always said it with them, like over the last couple of weeks. I've always meant it in the greatest of respect because I had them to such a high standard.
Yeah,
Because they've obviously blitzed the divisions before. I've seen them when they were in step six because they played a team that my mates played against them when he was playing at step five and step six. Like I've watched them for a fair few years now, and everything I've always said about them, I mean it in the greatest of respect. But it is a bit of a slump, isn't it? And we said during the preview at the beginning of the season, if they get into this sort of slump, how can they react? How will they get out of it? And at the moment, they're not getting out of it, are they? You know, it's just
yeah,
time after time. They're picking up draws here and there, but they're not. They've not won a game since the Spalding game. I thought the result, to be fair to him, on Saturday was actually quite good because I thought Bishop Stortford would go there and win.
mm.
I do expect Bishop Stortford to win the replay tonight,
Yeah, especially at
but
home. It's a tough place to
exactly.
play. Yeah,
But you know, they're four games without a win, and in the Kettering game was one of the like it was such a poor performance from them. They really didn't lay a glove on Kettering, and Kettering won the midfield battle. I think Bedford had maybe two or three chances, but they were like half chances. They weren't anything major. Andy Fanodge for Kettering dominated the play in the middle of the park and got man of the match for Kettering. He was fantastic. Following that game, you obviously go to St Ives, a game where you probably think you should win,
yeah,
but then
100%.
you get a draw. 5 points from 5 games, just above the drop zone at the moment. I just think they're struggling to adapt to the level at the moment
Yeah, I
because,
think. Yeah, on that, I think we just need to maybe freshen up the squad a bit because it's
yeah,
basically been the same squad since step six. And I think
exactly.
maybe it's time to maybe tweak things a bit more from
Hmm.
Rob Sinclair. And like everything I hear about Rob Sinclair is like he's an absolute superb manager, but I just think maybe those tweaks are needed a little bit, sort of bring the squad up a bit. Like sort of like it's also a very young squad. I think you might need
Yeah,
one or two of those more experienced heads who've been at the level, played above, and just sort of know how to sort of get out of these situations. Also, if you look at results, sort of other than the Kettering game, it has just been fine margins like nil
yeah,
nils.
exactly.
We're
Yeah.
losing by one goal against Halesowen, so they're
Hmm.
not far off, but they're also quite far off at the same time in terms of position.
No, exactly. And they're coming up against, I think, the games where you'd like you say it is fine margins, but they're going up against the teams that know the level really well. And, you know, a team like St. Ives have been here for a couple of, a while now, and they know how to just get over the line in this level and get results and grind results. And that's what I mean when I come to Real Bedford, just struggling to adapt to the level at the moment, possibly. But like you say, it is fine margins. And other than the Kettering game, I think they've been pretty much in every game. I thought they were relatively unlucky against Hales Owen by the sounds of it. So I think, time will come with them. And I think, yeah, like you say, Rob Sinclair probably does need to freshen up the squad a bit because even the signings that have come in this summer, they haven't really hit the ground running that much. Like I've been really disappointed with Conatee so far this season.
Yeah,
He's not really hit the ground running. I think maybe the defence looks like it might need a little bit of a freshen up as well. So there's still room for improvement for Bedford, but look, for a team that's obviously come up through the divisions, they're still, you know, at a good spot at the moment, but they just need to start picking up again, especially with the finances behind them. Moving on from that, then moving on from Real Bedford and towards the bottom end of the table, really, you look at someone like Stamford, who are rooted to the bottom now. Who
yeah,
I spoke about them last time, like the last 12 to 18 months, the number of players leaving, not recruiting properly, and I think they could become in serious trouble. I know it's super early to say that,
yeah,
but they do look in serious trouble at the moment. And look, they finally got a goal, but they haven't scored from open play yet. It was a penalty that they scored against Hales Owen, which in the end of it is a good draw at home. But then they hosted Spalding. I think they had a man sent off and lost 3-0. The next two games to them are Bury and Redditch. So two games where they need to pick up
yeah,
points now. They need to start improving because I think everyone normally has Stamford. I think they've been in Division 2 years now. And both times they've just narrowly missed out on playoff positions. They've got a lovely setup down at Stamford. So I'm very, very shocked that they're right down here in this position. And look, there's a couple of teams down there that are, not really hitting the ground running, isn't there? Is there anyone else that you've seen in the Southern at the bottom end
well,
that not really popping up?
Royston, I
Yeah.
think, is fine. Like I think like they've got Joe Shafano, who's scored like
Mm.
I think almost close to 100 goals in the National League South, and he's not even that old now. He's only, 28, 29, so you'd expect him to get goals. Luke Warner-Reilly, another ex-St Albans player, who I think has the quality, but I think he has some attitude problems. I think he thinks he's better than he is. But with the squad they have, I think they should be doing better. I think to only
Yeah.
pick up 3 points so far with a tough fish start. They've played Bishop Stortford and Kettering, but then you expect them to beat Redditch, Banbury, and Bury.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. And we've got upcoming games against, who do we have? Alvechurch and Needham Market. I think
Yeah.
Needham Market will be a tough game. I think they need to start picking up wins somewhere.
No,
But
they
yeah,
absolutely do. They really, really do. And, they've conceded, I'm just having a look here now, 11 goals. Granted, a lot of that was in the Kettering game, but their defensive record not fantastic this season. And like you said, they probably should have beaten the teams like Redditch, like Bury especially, but they're not. They're struggling at the moment, big time. Really,
yeah,
really struggling. And one more team I'm just going to quickly bring to light, and because obviously that we spoke about Bishop Stortford, Harbour, Corn, those three are absolutely flying, and we banged their drum numerous times on the podcast, but I'm just going to stay away from those three for a moment because I want to speak about someone else a little bit, and it is Banbury because they're sitting in sixth, and that
mm,
like a bit like Lewis, their record isn't it's not catching the eye as such, but they're just
yeah,
getting stuff done. They're sitting in sixth, they're unbeaten at the moment, 2 wins, 3 draws. Like I said, nothing catching the eye as such, but it was always going to be interesting to see how they dealt with Simon Holyhead going to Kettering. But Kelvin Langmead's come in, someone who's been across the EFL and non-league as a player, taken charge after Simon's departure. I think he'd be pretty happy with a start, to be honest. He's someone who, having played at Banbury between 2020 and 2023, he'd gain respect in that squad because the squad's not really changed that much over this period of time. And, they're getting stuff done. They're getting decent results. Reece Deitch at
yeah.
36 has got
That's yeah.
5 goals this season so far. And it's some of the best scoring form he's had in recent years because I was looking at like some of his previous years. I think he played for 3 clubs last season. Or
Yeah,
the season
but
before.
you just look at his experience, so like where he's
Yeah,
been. I think
exactly.
that's just a massive plus in a squad like that because Banbury, I think, don't have the biggest budget in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But to have someone like that who's been at Forest Green, Wickham, Kidderminster, Tamworth, Darlington, Alfreton, could probably go on for hours where he's been.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just having that experience up front is like something you desperately need at this level. So someone
No,
who
100%.
maybe is not the best finisher, not the sharpest at his age, but will know like his movements, tell the other players where to move. And I think
Yeah,
having a player like that is just a massive plus.
no, definitely. And they've got a decent 2 games against Sudbury and Bromsgrove where I'd probably back them both away, but I think still probably back them to get a win and a draw there. And then they've got 2 tough games against Spalding and Rail Bedford. So it's a mixed couple of fixtures coming up for them. I haven't actually properly looked at the upcoming fixtures as of yet, so I'm gonna have a quick look now. I think Worcester versus Kettering. Now I'm looking to try and get to that on Saturday. I think
Mm.
that would be an interesting one because obviously Worcester play at Six Ways, which is a rugby stadium. So I know I personally I'm not a massive fan of that in non-league. I
Yeah.
don't like I like a proper non-league ground, so it's not one that I'm excited to tick off on Saturday. Having a look at it, Hales Owen and Harbour Town is probably the standout this weekend.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, 2 teams expected to be at the top end of the table. Harbour obviously flying still. And then I think on the Tuesday, just before the FA Cup game, Kettering versus Spalding, Rail Bedford, versus Bury could be interesting, and Harbour versus Corn. So Harbour have got some difficult fixtures, to be fair, coming up. Add that to obviously Kettering just before, but them themselves are dealing with it, aren't they? Harbour, they're doing very well at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Although
yeah, Harbour.
I was very shocked about them drawing to Leek in the FA Cup.
Yeah, like FA Cup is just one of those things where you just sometimes have to just
Yeah,
look at results with sort of a pinch of salt because if
exactly.
the amount of upsets that just happen.
And I think that could be an interesting replay tonight. To be fair for Harbour, because obviously they've got to travel all the way up north to Leek tonight. You never know. You never know. Obviously, same level, but obviously Leek are in the Northern Prem. But I still would have probably expected Harbour to get something, and I probably still do tonight. But you never know. You never know. I mean, is there anything else then, mate, about the Southern League you want to quickly touch on before we move into some FA Cup talk?
No, I think we're ready to move into FA Cup.
Perfect then. So look, we'll look at the FA Cup weekend that's obviously just gone. There was, like we said, a couple of upsets that happened across the FA Cup, as expected. A couple of usual results, but what ones really stood out to you, Zach? Sorry, I mean obviously the Dulwich one in terms of
Yeah,
the Isthmian League must stand out the most.
yeah, Dulwich 100%. I think they were 2-0 up as well and lost
Yeah, they
3-2.
were.
I think that's just. I think there has to be question marks asked
Hmm.
there. Like, I'll be interested how they react because it's gone quite well. They lost quite well, now they've lost this. It'll be interesting. Basically, it'll show the mentality of the squad and see if they've got a title winning mentality. Because if they don't bounce back with a win, I think it could go a bit sort of tits up,
Yeah,
basically. Obviously, Malden and Tiptree beating Canby.
yeah,
It's
good result for
expected.
them.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
most people can expect Malden and Tiptree to be in the Isthmian next season.
Hmm.
And as a St Albans fan, when the draw was happening, the Malden and Tiptree were one team I absolutely did not want. As with fair flying, we're not. I think that would have had them beating us.
Hmm.
This is Southern South, but Weymouth basically sacked their manager, brought in a new manager. First game against Tadley, who I think step 4 or 5, then lose 4-2. And that was on BBC, BCI player
Yeah,
as well, so not great. Other ones. Cheshunt losing to Leiston, who was step 4, was,
yeah.
I thought, interesting because Cheshunt
Hmm.
had a flying start. You'd expect, also they're at home, so you were expecting them to probably go and win it,
Yeah.
and then lose 2-1. I think's interesting. Then lastly, Flackwell Heath beating Lewis 2-1. I would expect
Hmm.
Lewis to win that. Flackwell, just looking through their squad of not anyone I recognise, so yeah, just a surprise upset. But I think the most exciting game has to go to Tiverton Taunton. Both
Yeah.
Southern South, both local rivals. Then Taunton to win 4-3. Um, yeah, delighted for Taunton because I know their head scout Callum very well.
Mm.
So yeah, always good to see them do well.
No, definitely. Yeah, it was a couple of upsets in terms of the Southern League as well. Like there wasn't too many, but there was a few that came out a little bit. I think, like I said, it's not really an upset as such, but like I said, I was impressed with Rail Bedford getting a draw over a high flying Bishop Stortford. Interesting, like we said, to see how the replay goes tonight. Um, but that was I thought a decent result for Rail Bedford. Hales Owen, I think, will be kicking themselves that they couldn't get past Stratford in another one of the all Southern League clashes, because at home I think they should have put away a Stratford team that have struggled in the league this season, and
Mm.
I think they're now going to have a task on their hands to go to Stratford and get past them. And looking at the replays tonight, there's a lot of Southern teams in action. You've got Harbour, like we've mentioned as well. So it's a very, very interesting FA Cup weekend that has just passed for sure. Away from that, though, Malden and Tiptree, in terms of the Isthmian League, if they were to go up to the Isthmian League, say, Zach, where would you place them, roughly?
That's basically impossible because it's like,
Because you don't know what they're going to do financially next year.
yeah, financially, if they throw the money at it like they did this year and build
Mm,
a good, solid squad of players who want to be there, as when we interviewed Barry, that's one of the main things he wants, players who actually
yeah,
want to be there. Yeah, I think sky's the limit. I think they would be up there. I think they'd be fighting for playoffs, if not the title. Depends who
no,
else is in the
exactly.
league, who comes down from the south. So
No,
yeah,
and I think I really do think they'll have a good cup run this year. To be fair, I didn't
yeah,
catch properly. I think it was a step 4 or step 5 team. I didn't really look into who they have in the next round
yeah,
too much, but it's a lower league opposition, I
yeah.
believe, and it's at home, and they seem to be getting a fair few cup draws at home at the moment, so they're getting that part of the luck on their side as well. But away from that, then looking at some of these upcoming FA Cup ties, which will obviously be played in a couple of weeks' time, what ones stand out to you, mate?
So ones I've got down. So Enfield FC versus Enfield Town, proper
Hmm.
old school sort of derby. Bedford, Bedford Town versus Dagenham is one I think will be interesting.
Yeah.
North versus South. Oh yeah, Real Bedford or Bishop Stortford away to Hemel is, I think,
Hmm.
a very exciting one, which was probably one I'm considering to get down to.
Yeah.
Hemmel's managers, the Allansons, always have good cup runs. They've given me probably the best cup runs of my life at St Albans. So yeah, Welling versus Slough as well. Slough have had a slow start in this National League South. Welling have had a slow start. Um, then Folkestone versus Maidstone is also one. I think it'll be interesting to see how Folkestone do against a very defensively strong Maidstone side, but a
Yeah.
side that also struggles for goals a little bit. Um, then Jersey Bulls at home to Worthing. I think every Worthing fan will love going to Jersey Bulls. I think that's the dream away day for every football fan of the
Oh yeah,
lower league.
100%.
Um, then yeah, that's what I've got down so far for that. And Corn versus
Yeah.
Kettering as well.
Yeah, Corn versus Kettering. Obviously, it's going to be a tricky tie, I think, for Kettering, especially being away at Corn. But with it being smack bang in between some difficult games, but difficult games for both teams either side of that as well. Like I said earlier in the upcoming ones, going to be a real test for Simon and his squad with Corn flying high at the moment, and like you mentioned earlier, winning 8-0
Yeah,
in any game. Take the opposition, the level of the opposition out of it. They could have easily thrown that game, couldn't they? You've seen it happen time and time again in football, but they seemed very professional about their business, and I think that one, Kettering fans are a bit nervous from what I've seen on the forums and across Twitter because of obviously it can be a tricky tie. You wanted probably something away from your division, but I take it all the way. It will be a very good game. That's probably the one I'm going to try and get down to. But there's a couple others as well that I'm going to try and get down. Well, looking at trying to get to. Sorry, a couple ones that stand out though. I like the look of Spalding against Alfreton because
yeah,
Alfreton, struggling a little bit at step two. Just one win this season. On the flip side, Spalding have bounced back really well since opening day defeat to Rail Bedford. So possibly an upset to be had there. Whichever one of Harbour Town and Leek get through tonight, they've got Workshop of the National League North, of course, who have hit 3 wins on the bounce. So that one in Market Harbour, if it is obviously Harbour to go through, could be a classic down in Leicestershire. And the winner, like you said there, Rail Bedford versus Bishop Stortford, with a trip to Hemel, I think is possibly one of the standouts across the
yeah,
divisions, really, because it could be a very interesting game, couldn't it?
yeah, yeah. And it's also like I think if Real Bedford get through, I think it'll be very interesting because it's a 3G pitch and Hemel. I
Mm,
mean, Real Bedford style football very much. So he's playing it on the floor on a fast pitch,
exactly.
on a 3G pitch. So I think yeah, that'll be an interesting one. Then
No,
obviously
definitely.
with St Albans, we've been drawn away to either Potter's Bar or Hitchin, which I think is possibly in terms of quality is probably one of the worst draws because mainly if Potter's Bar win the replay tonight, which I expect they will, we play
Yeah.
Potter's Bar on the Monday night in the league. Then we play them again away on the Saturday. Then we've got to play them at home in October a month later. So I'm hoping Hitchin pull for a result, but also with Hitchin, I've been to
Mm.
their ground many, many times with St Albans in the Hearts County and Charity Cup. So yeah, very.
It's not the ideal
It's a
draw for
very
you at all.
yeah, because obviously Potter's Bar step three as well. They could
Yeah.
beat us. Then obviously yeah, Hitchin. I think we'd beat them. They haven't had a great start to the season.
No.
Yeah, just been to their ground so many times, it's just a bit of a boring.
Where is it tonight? Where is the replay? Is it at Hitchin or is it away?
I think it's at Hitchin. I'll just double check that now. Um, but
Because
yeah,
that could very much play into it tonight.
yeah,
But like you said, you expect Potters to get through.
yeah, 100%.
Um,
I think it's a shock that they've been taken to a replay. To be fair, where is it? It is at Hitchin. So
mm,
yeah, it'll be interesting. Hitchin will have a good
definitely
number
be
of
interesting.
fans. They're well
Yeah.
followed. Yeah,
No, definitely. I mean, obviously, you say there, St Albans, it could be an opportunity for um, to for Hitchin to maybe cause an upset if they were to get through.
yeah.
How confident would you be of St Albans,
I
whichever
think
side it was against?
I think it was Hitchin. I'd be more confident, but even
Than
then,
being Potter, yeah.
they've got a few ex St Albans players who will be up for it.
Mm,
Like ones who've been released from our academy. Potter's Bar, I think I'd be well because obviously you're playing them back to back, so you just don't know how it'll go. So
no,
if you have
exactly.
them in the league first, teams will do their research. Yeah, it could be interesting. So I think preferably Hitchin if we want to get through.
Mm.
Yeah,
I like the sound of that, to be fair, because it's always difficult. It's the same with Kettering as well, because it's always difficult when you're playing a fellow step three or fellow team in your division. Um, where would it be? Would it be away or would it be home?
it's away.
So that's another factor that you've got to
Yeah,
add into it as well.
like if it's Potter's Bar away, we've got to go to Potter's Bar twice in 5 days. It's only a 10-minute drive down the road. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it segues us quite nicely then, to be honest, to go into a bit of Kettering and St Albans chat, because obviously, since the last podcast, a fair bit has happened in terms of results for both sides over a bank holiday weekend, a FA Cup weekend, so much football going on. Of course, like we said there, you've progressed in the cup, but going back to the league form, it's still been far from ideal, hasn't it?
yeah.
Like we said
Two
earlier.
losses on the bounce. I think Folkestone game. Like I went in thinking, I thought we were going to lose, but I thought it'd be a close game. Realistically,
Mm.
Folkestone should have thumped us more. Like we were absolutely horrendous. Like midfield just got bullied all game, just got ran through. Which just Folkestone will be up there towards the end of the season. I've said that since the start. They're a good
Mm.
side with a very very good manager. I was like, when we went to Cheshunt, I didn't go, but I was thinking, this isn't going to be great. Um, Although it sounded like, we were a better team, just couldn't take our chances. I think
Mm.
it's just a bit worrying. Harrison Smith's back. He scored against Aylesbury, started against Cheshunt, but it didn't sound like he did much. But it might take him a while to get up to speed because
Yeah.
obviously he hasn't played since last game of last season.
Mm-hmm.
So, it'll be interesting with that. But I think we need another centre forward. I think we need a centre back who can run because both our centre backs are quite slow, and maybe a couple of midfielders because Aziz Kone started against Folkestone and just hasn't been in the squad for the last two games.
Mm.
Would quite like to see our media team ask about that in a post-match interview, but for some reason,
That's a
but
lot to ask for the St Albans media team.
yeah, quite a lot. So, took us an hour and a half to post who we got in the FA Cup yesterday.
I mean, was that quicker than the last one or not? I can't remember.
Last one I think was an hour, so it's
Ah.
taking longer each time.
I mean, yeah, like with St Albans, obviously we spoke a lot in the last few weeks about how reinforcements need to come in, and in certain areas of the squad, and the atmosphere probably not the best around the club at the
Yeah,
moment, and it's a pretty
interesting with
crap.
like I think it's very clear we need to bring in 1 or 2 players. Like even Culverhouse said in his post-match interview, the squad isn't where it needs to be, but we
Yeah,
just haven't. And I think, it's interesting. Like what, like, do we have any budget left available?
yeah, exactly. I mean, if Cleverhouse is obviously coming out and saying very openly that he wants reinforcements, then you have to put that down to the board and the people above, don't you? Who have,
Yeah.
like you said, maybe not given him the budget, maybe not given him enough
Well, he hasn't
resources to go and
specifically
do it.
said he needs reinforcements. He's just said the squad isn't good enough at the moment. So
Yeah, just
interesting.
subtly saying it a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Trying
But
to
yeah,
force the
like,
hand.
but even on Saturday, it was only 4 first teamers on the bench and 3 academy players. So I think we
Mm.
do need 1 or 2 more.
No,
But yeah,
definitely. Especially in the situation you're in at the moment, you'll need to get more in to try and push you towards the higher end
yeah,
of the table, because
yeah,
you don't want to be
like
languishing in this position.
yeah. Well, goal is to get playoff/promotion. We're 7 points
Mm.
already adrift with playoffs.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
So it's definitely gonna be an interesting
yeah,
moment, isn't it? I mean, in terms of Clubhouse, then, because you said that there's obviously some people saying about how his time could be up in the next, couple of games.
I
How,
personally think
how
I think he could be gone if
yeah.
we were to win one of the next 3.
Mm.
Especially if we lose the next 2 and get knocked out of the FA Cup. I think that could be. Although it's tough what I say here, but it's like I don't think it's been the best environment for him to work in, and
No.
he's done things quite differently to how he's done it at Boston and Kettering, and
Yeah.
Kings Lynn. He's always had a bigger squad, a big mix, a couple of loan players. Like
Mm-hmm.
this season, we haven't brought in a single loan player, and he said at the fans when we're not going to bring in any loan players, which I thought was
Yeah.
interesting considering he's done that at every other club.
Everywhere. No,
Yeah,
exactly. I was gonna say, how much do you really put down to him, because his resume does speak for itself, doesn't it?
yeah,
Really, at step
yeah.
three
He's
and
had
even
so
at
much
step
success
two
at
at
this
times.
level. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Well, I think I will. So yeah,
No, it's definitely a difficult time. Yeah, you look at it then. Obviously, with St Albans, you spoke about the double header perhaps against Potter's Bar if they get through Hitchin. The Folkestone game, the Cheshunt game, of course. Folkestone you expect to be at the top end of
Yeah.
the table by the end of it. But what were your main takeaways from the two games against those two?
Lack of physicality. Just
Mm,
we don't have like in midfield. You want someone who's just going to go in and crunch someone. And like Alex Dyer, older, experienced midfielder, but he's very much a technical player who just reads the game. I really like him, but I think you need someone who's like big, physical, sort of just lump in midfield next to him.
yeah,
In attack, just lack physicality. Like we've got George Sippets off the bench, who's 18. Culverhouse, even in his post-match interview against Aylesbury, was like, "You need to take your chances against Aylesbury." I think he's just too lightweight.
mm.
Uh, yeah, it's just a very lightweight team. And obviously, we've got two centre backs who are physical, but just don't have the pace. So yeah, I
Haven't
think
got the athleticism anymore.
yeah,
No, you're right. Yeah.
yeah.
And then obviously I asked last time about reinforcements. You obviously openly said there centre back. Is there a centre back you're looking for, or would like to cry out for St Albans to go and get?
Not specifically. I think we need probably a lone player in centre back, like
Mm,
late teens, like early 20s, someone with pace, and maybe someone in their prime as well. But yeah,
yeah, no, interesting. Is there anything else then on St Albans maybe you want to speak about?
no, I think that's it.
Perfect. Well, look, I'll quickly bring us on to Kettering then because not too much has happened really in terms of the last podcast. There's been a couple of talking points. Obviously, the tough games against Rail Bedford and Harbour on paper anyway, but obviously, like we said, against Rail Bedford, they made pretty light work of it. Um, from the game that I went to watch it, it was a relatively boring game to be honest, just because Kettering had a professional and mature performance, and Rail Bedford just kind of took it the whole game and didn't really pose a threat. On terms of Monday, where they took on Harbour Town, which, like I said earlier, sadly wasn't at because obviously on Bank Holiday Monday, my family decide they want to go mini golfing when you can do that on any day of the year.
Yeah,
You can't interfere with Bank Holiday football, but there we are. But from what I heard, it was again like a bit of a nothing game. Neither team really taking control. It was a goal from Danny Newton, who came in from Brackley this summer. His first goal as well, actually, at the level since joining Harbour. Sorry, so took it pretty well. But I think everyone knew it was going to be a bit of a tough game, bit of a scrappy game. Hard to get a result in that, even if it was at home. So I think in the grand scheme of things, I think fans were pretty happy that they came out of that with at least one win from the two games. Because I know fans were looking for 4 points from those two, but I think a lot of them have taken the three, especially with a couple of other teams still not really starting. The big really news that broke over the weekend, it's not officially come out yet, but it's all but confirmed. Is that not Niall Range is obviously leaving the club because he went onto his Twitter account after the game and put "Been a blast, go and smash it this season." Like I said, no official announcement yet, but it pretty much says all that needs to be said, doesn't it? There that he'll probably be off this season. There was a lot of speculation about his contract being until the end of August. I know that Simon in his post-match Bedford game, post-match Bedford interview said that they're going to try and sign him down to a new contract this week. But then he hasn't done an interview from what I can see after the Harbour or the what's it called game, the FA Cup game against Long Eaton. So haven't really got any clarity on that. But in terms of Niall, he's been nothing but I think there was a bit of criticism when he came in because obviously he's passed.
yeah, yeah,
But he since being with us, he's been nothing short of quality on the pitch, professional, very good with the media as well during the FA Cup run and everything else as well. So he's been a big part of what Kettering have built over the last 12 months. So all credit to him, wish him all the best. But with Kettering, three big games now, which obviously Worcester on Saturday, I'll hopefully be heading over to midweek against Spalding, which will be tough, very, very tough. And then that cup tie against Corn is also going to be very, very tough. So it's getting to that point. It's only September, of course, but it's starting to ramp up a little bit now, isn't it?
yeah. I think you should by the end of this month also see sort of how the league's actually going to look. I always say
Mm,
10 games, and sort of that's going to be sort of a rough position to come end of the season. So I
yeah.
always think September's the most important month as well because you've also got FA Cup coming thick and fast.
Exactly, yeah.
Um, the lower rounds of the FA Trophy and FA Vase start to take place at the start of October as well. So realistically, by the end of September, every team just wants to be in the swing of things, picking up results, picking up wins. So yeah, very important
No,
month.
definitely. No, it's definitely an important month. And as September grows on, because obviously the first round proper gets started in like October, November time, you'll see
Yeah,
some more and more step-free sides, slowly fall out of the
yeah.
competition. So it becomes a very, very important month. Like you said, is there anything on Kettering at all that has caught your eye at all, mate, before we
Well,
move on?
firstly, Noel Ranger leaving, I'd absolutely love him at St Albans. It's what we're crying out for. But I don't think we'll be able to afford him, considering
No.
how much he's cost. But yeah, sounds interesting there. Hopefully, I'll head to a Kettering game once I'm at uni. So yeah,
Mm. No, definitely. I mean, it'd be interesting to see where Niall does end up because I very much think it's going to be a London-based club. Um, I think step two possibly, but then I don't know what step two team really off the top of my head is gonna
yeah,
go to. It's going to be really interesting to see where he ends up, and it's also going to be interesting to see how Ketchum replace him because yes, we've got a number of attacking options like Loza and Ledgebit's been on fire since coming back from injury. He scored a hat trick against Long Eaton, but also scored against Real Bedford. He's looking as fine as ever. I still think we do need a couple of recruitments because Brandon Barker's not really hit the ground running at all. To be honest, I thought it was a weird signing, and from what I've seen and what I've heard, it's not looking good for him at the moment in terms of being at Kettering. I think we could probably still do with another centre back through the door, not someone to start, but someone in terms of cover to replace Lewis White, and then maybe another midfield option because Ishmael's still out with a broken arm. So still possibly time for Simon to get stuff done. But is there anything else at all, Zach, you want to speak about that we've spoke about today or anything at all?
no, I think we've covered it all. I think yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting week. Obviously, up next time we do an episode of the FA Cup, second qualifying round will be done. So it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see
exactly. Yeah.
how we're doing then.
No, exactly. It's very much going to be interesting. Like you say, September. It's a good month because FA Cup comes back into play. You've obviously got the other cup competitions starting again, so it really does start to ramp up the non-league scene around this sort of time. But look, I think that's a great way to start to round it off, and it's definitely been, like you said, a couple of interesting weeks with the FA Cup back. Big results at step three. Some teams still struggling to get off the ground. But Zach, as always, thank you for being here, mate, and
Yeah,
I look
been
forward
a pleasure.
to hearing about how you how if you do go down to Hemel, how that game goes.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, thank you to everyone who was tuned into Below the Pyramid this week. Please leave your reviews on our Twitter page, Instagram, and comments on the YouTube video. All the support is greatly appreciated. Sorry. And as mentioned, we will have guests from across the league. So if you want to get involved, just drop us a message on X. My username is PayStacy1. Zach's is non-league chat. But until next time, we will see you then.